He took everything from me. My girlfriend. My career. My peace of mind. Then I found out he had my sister too. Not just in his bed. In his plans. And I was the fool feeding them both information. I was the target. Until I opened the trunk and found the one thing that changed everything. I work in a mid-sized tech company for 6 years now. It used to be a great job, but now I wake up dreading every second of it. Why? Because I work side by side with the guy who used to be my best friend, and now I can't even look at him without wanting to throw something. Let's call him Chad. Fitting name for the type of guy who will smile to your face while stabbing you in the spine. Chad and I used to be tight. We went to college together, lived in the same off-campus apartment, survived eating noodles 5 nights a week. We got hired at the same company a few months apart, me first, then him when I vouched for him during a referral. For years, he felt like the one person at work who had my back. Outside of work, we were inseparable. Weekends at the lake, parties, road trips, everything. And that's how he met Kayla, my ex-girlfriend. 3 years we were together. Chad was at our place so often, people joked we were in a 3-way relationship. The whole thing blew up last year hard. I found out they'd been sleeping together for months. The signs were there, but I didn't want to believe them. The late-night texts. The way she started pulling away physically and emotionally. And Chad? He was always just a little too invested in her life. He knew what she liked to eat before I did. He happened to be where we were having dinner more than once. Dumb stuff I explained away at the time. One night, she left her phone on the table and walked into the kitchen. It buzzed. And yeah, I looked. I'm not proud of it, but my gut told me something was off, and it was right. I won't describe the messages in detail, but they confirmed everything. Jokes about me being clueless. Plans to sneak away together. Pictures. I remember sitting there, reading those texts, my ears ringing. My heart wasn't just broken, it felt like someone reached in and twisted it like a soap towel. When I confronted her, she didn't even deny it. She just stood there, blinking like she was deciding whether it was worth pretending. Then she said, "I didn't think you'd find out." Didn't think I'd find out? That was the moment Chad became my enemy. He texted me that night with the classic man-to-man garbage. Said it just happened, that he never meant for it to go this far. That it was complicated. Complicated? I was your best friend. She was my girlfriend. You don't accidentally sleep with someone 27 times. And yeah, I counted. I went through every single message in that thread. I should have quit right then. Should have found a new job. But I didn't. Part of me didn't want to give him the satisfaction of driving me out. So I stayed. And I've been swallowing bile ever since. We don't speak at work. I avoid meetings with him if I can. But sometimes I'll catch him laughing in the break room like nothing ever happened, like my life wasn't collateral damage in his little side quest. I'll see coworkers hanging out with him like he's still the golden boy. They don't know what he did. Or maybe they do and just don't care. Here's where it gets worse. I don't have a huge family. It's mostly just me and my younger sister, Emily. We've always been close. She's 4 years younger than me, and even when we were kids, she followed me everywhere. We had that rare sibling bond that actually got stronger as we grew up. She was the first person I told when Kayla cheated. She was furious. Said if she ever ran into Chad again, she'd accidentally pour her drink on his crotch. I believed her. She started coming around more after the breakup. Checking on me, bringing takeout. She knew I was a wreck, and she always knew how to distract me just enough to keep me from falling off the edge. I remember one night, she sat next to me on the couch while I tried to zone out to some mindless action movie. She didn't say anything. Just leaned her head on my shoulder and stayed there for over an hour. That kind of quiet support meant everything. I don't know what I would have done without her in those first few months. Eventually, I started to rebuild. Slowly. I hit the gym again. Took a weekend trip by myself to the mountains just to unplug. Went back to therapy. I wasn't fine, but I wasn't drowning anymore. Then this month, everything got strange again. It started with little things. Emily became more distant. Shorter replies to texts. Canceling plans last minute. Once she even said she wasn't feeling great and couldn't come over, then posted a picture out at a bar with some friends. When I asked about it, she brushed it off with, "Oh, that was last night, I just posted it late." I let it go. But that was the beginning of the shift. You know how you can feel someone pulling away before they actually go anywhere? That was it. And I chalked it up to her just getting busy or maybe needing space from being my emotional crutch all this time. People need to live their own lives, I get it. Then she started acting weird when I mentioned work. One day I vented about a problem on my team and she cut me off to say, "Maybe you're being a little harsh. You don't know what pressure other people are under." I blinked. Other people being Chad, apparently. I asked her what she meant and she changed the subject. Said she didn't want to talk about that jerk anymore. But the comment stuck. Then came the business trip. Just a week ago, I had to go out of town with a couple people from the office for a 3-day offsite. Chad was one of them. I didn't have a choice, it was part of a pitch we were doing for a potential client. I mentally prepared myself for a few days of ignoring him in a shared hotel conference room. The trip itself was uneventful. Work stuff. Long hours. Forced smiles. Chad tried to make small talk at one point, asking how I was doing lately. I gave him a look and said, "Don't." That was it. But something was off. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I felt it. Like a rattle you hear in your car but can't find when you check under the hood. That kind of unease. I came home exhausted, dropped my bag by the door, and crashed. I didn't even unpack. I should have. But that's part of what comes next, and I'm not ready to write that down just yet. Because the next part tore everything apart again in a way I didn't think was possible. I got home from that work trip and did what any overworked, emotionally depleted guy would do. I crashed hard. Left my suitcase half-zipped in the living room, didn't touch my phone for hours, and just let myself disappear into sleep. The next morning things felt off. I don't know how to explain it. Just that gut feeling again. The one that starts in your stomach and slowly creeps up your spine. I chalked it up to the awkward tension with Chad during the trip. We didn't speak unless absolutely necessary, and when we did, his tone was all corporate robot. Which was fine. Better than fake friendliness. Still, I could feel something was boiling underneath, like he knew something I didn't. Back home, I tried to ease back into normal. I texted Emily that I was back. She replied with a thumbs up. A thumbs up. This is someone who used to send 3-paragraph messages if I said I had a bad day. Now I was getting emoji responses. Something was off. Again. I figured maybe she had a new guy she wasn't ready to talk about. She'd had some bad relationships in the past, nothing crazy, just the usual mess. Guys who used her for rides or borrowed money and didn't pay it back. The kind of losers she always said I helped her avoid because I was the only one who ever had her back. But now she was closed off. She stopped dropping by altogether. Said she was busy with work. She's a graphic designer, freelancing mostly, and lately she claimed she was overloaded with client deadlines. I believed her. Because she's my sister. The shift became harder to ignore when she missed our mom's birthday dinner. Not forgot, missed it. She texted me last minute and asked if I could tell our parents she couldn't make it. Said she had a migraine and couldn't drive. Thing is, she's never missed one before. Not once. Migraine or not, she always showed up even if it meant sitting in the corner with sunglasses and sipping ginger ale. So I called her. No answer. 5 hours later, she texted me, "Sorry, phone died." Just got up. That sentence stuck with me. Just got up? At 10 p.m.? Okay. That was the night I started paying attention again. I'm not proud of this next part, but I think if you've ever been betrayed once, it rewires your brain. Makes you notice things you would have brushed off before. Like, my trust in people took a hit after Kayla and Chad. I didn't want it to affect how I saw Emily, but it did. Not because I thought she'd ever do something shady, but because I couldn't afford to be blindsided again. The next week, I was working late and had to swing by the office to pick up my laptop. Chad was still there. Alone. Which was weird. He's not the extra hours type unless there's a bonus on the line. I didn't talk to him. Just nodded and kept it moving. But something about the way he looked at me, the smug, almost amused glance, made my skin crawl. Like he was in on some joke I didn't know about. Then, as I was leaving the parking garage, I passed by his car. And I paused. Again, nothing dramatic. Just, something looked different. A flash of something shiny on the passenger seat. I didn't go over to check, I'm not a lunatic. But it stuck in my mind. When I got home, I pulled up Emily's latest Instagram story. She hadn't posted anything in 48 hours. Which is weird for her. She's a story every morning type of person. Coffee shots, Spotify playlists, memes. That kind of thing. I checked again the next day, still nothing. Okay, maybe she was taking a break. No big deal. Until I saw Chad post. Now, Chad doesn't post often either. But that morning, he had a story up. A picture of a breakfast plate, eggs, avocado toast, some fancy coffee, and the caption, "Not bad for a Monday." Totally normal. Except the plate? I recognized it. It was one of the dishes from my parents' old set. The ones they handed down to Emily when she moved into her place. Blue and white porcelain, chipped on one side. I zoomed in. The chip was there. That plate was from Emily's apartment. So what? Maybe he was visiting her. Maybe he dropped something off. But that wasn't normal. Chad didn't hang out with her. Not that I knew of. And she never mentioned seeing him. Not once. Ever. So I texted her. "Hey, are you okay? Haven't heard from you much lately." She replied, "Just swamped." "You good?" I asked, "You still working with that shoe brand client?" She said, "Yup. They're being picky as hell." That was it. Conversation over. Then Chad started acting different. Cocky at work. Jabbing little comments in meetings. Like, well, some of us know how to multitask when I asked for more time on a presentation. Or the time he said, maybe if you focus less on fixing what's broken and more on what's working, we'd move faster. Comments that made no sense but felt personal. 2 days later, he accidentally forwarded me an internal chat that wasn't meant for me. I opened it before I realized it wasn't related to my department. It was him talking to someone from HR about potential restructuring options for upper-level project leads. That's me. That's my title. Was it intentional? No idea. But he never mentioned it after. Just smirked when I asked, was this meant for me? Things were unraveling again. I called Emily that night. Straight up. Is there something going on you're not telling me? She hesitated. I could hear it in the silence. Then she laughed. Laughed. You're being weird. What would I be hiding from you? I wanted to believe her. So I did. But something had shifted. I could feel it in her voice. In the way she kept trying to flip the conversation back to me. Are you okay? You've seemed really tense lately. Don't let work get in your head again. It was like talking to someone reading from a script. So I stopped pushing. Played it cool. But now I was watching both of them. Not paranoid. Prepared. Because I'd learned the hard way that people don't always hurt you like a punch. Sometimes they do it like a slow leak in your tire. You don't notice until you're driving 70 on the highway and suddenly everything spins out. And let me tell you something. I was about to hit the highway. It started with a routine Monday morning. And I mean mind-numbingly routine. I was headed into the office already dreading the meetings lined up. I had my usual coffee bag slung over my shoulder, half tuned into a podcast I didn't care about. I tossed my travel bag from the work trip into the trunk. Yes, I still hadn't unpacked it. I figured I'd clean out the car after work. Spoiler, I wouldn't make it to work that day. I stopped at a gas station on the way. Popped the trunk to grab a charger I thought I left in my bag. The trunk was a mess, papers, receipts, gum wrappers. But something caught my eye wedged between the back lining and a corner of my duffel. A thin chain. Silver. With 3 tiny pink beads in the center and a small charm that read, E. My brain stuttered. For a second I didn't connect the dots. I thought maybe it was from Kayla. Old stuff I hadn't cleared out. But no, that bracelet was new. Very new. It was my sister's. Emily's. I'd know it anywhere. I was the one who gave it to her 5 Christmases ago. Custom made. She never took it off, said it reminded her of us before life got complicated. That was the phrase she used. I stood there holding it like my brain had stopped buffering. There was no reason it should have been in the back of my trunk. My car had been at the hotel with me. Locked. The only people who'd been in that car were work people, my team. Chad. Unless she'd been there too. My heart didn't even race. It just stopped. Cold. Like my body didn't want to give me the energy to feel it yet. Like it knew this was the moment the floor caved in. I sat back in the driver's seat, turned off the podcast, and just stared straight ahead. No. No way. I texted Emily. Hey, weird question. You lose your bracelet. She replied 10 minutes later, what bracelet? I sent her a picture. No reply. 5 minutes. Nothing. Then, OMG, where did you find that? I thought I lost it at the gym a few weeks ago. You found it. Lies. That gym she mentioned? It's by her apartment. Has zero connection to me, my car, or the business trip. She doubled down before I could even ask where she thought she lost it. She knew she had to explain it. And that's when my hands started to shake. I didn't respond. I couldn't. That day, I didn't go to work. I called in sick and sat in my living room with the bracelet in one hand and a glass of water in the other, trying to figure out what the hell I was looking at. There were only 2 possibilities. She rode in my car at some point without telling me. She was with Chad. In the car. On the trip. Either way, I was done pretending this was just in my head. So I did something I haven't done in years. I snooped. I remembered Emily used to keep a backup iPad synced with her phone's messages. Said it helped her stay on top of freelance stuff while traveling. I wasn't even sure she still used it, but I took a chance and stopped by her place when I knew she was out. She had a standing Monday morning yoga session. I still had a spare key from when I helped her move in. It took 5 minutes to find the iPad. It took 10 seconds to see what I wasn't supposed to see. Her messages weren't fully synced, but one thread stood out. No contact name. Just a phone number. But the messages? Him. I recognized his texting style. His stupid abbreviations. The way he never capitalized anything. One message sealed it. Miss you already. Don't forget the bracelet next time. Timestamp, the day before we got back from the work trip. I felt my stomach twist. There were only a few texts there. She must have deleted the thread from her main device after syncing. But that one message broke everything wide open. I sat on her couch, holding the iPad like it was radioactive. My sister and him. It wasn't just betrayal, it was psychological warfare. She knew what he did to me. She cried on my couch about it. She brought me Thai food and cursed his name. She knew. And she did it anyway. I left the iPad exactly where I found it. That evening she texted again. Hey, did you find out where my bracelet was? Still can't believe it showed up, LOL. I didn't reply. She called. I let it ring out. 3 hours later she was on my doorstep. I opened the door. She smiled. She actually smiled. What's going on? Are you mad or something? She asked, brushing her hair behind her ear. You didn't answer, eh? I held up the bracelet. Her face changed instantly. Gone was the innocent smile. Her mouth opened, then shut again. Her hand trembled just slightly. Want to try again? I asked. She stared at me. Then looked down. Silence. That silence told me everything. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared until she started stumbling over excuses. It wasn't what you think, Chad and I just talked. He reached out. We met up a few times. But nothing serious, I swear. I asked one question. Were you with him on that trip? Her eyes darted sideways. That was enough. Emily, I said, I'm going to ask you once. Just once. Did you sleep with him? Her jaw tightened. Then she said it. I didn't mean for it to happen. It wasn't planned. I nodded, walked back into the house, and closed the door. The night I closed the door on Emily, I expected her to text, to call, to bang on the door, crying or yelling or something. She didn't. She walked away. The silence was louder than any apology she could have offered. And it told me something I wasn't ready to admit. This wasn't just a slip-up. It wasn't a one-time mistake. She didn't come clean because she got caught. She was caught and still tried to talk her way out of it. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with the bracelet in my hand, running through every moment from the last 6 months. Every weird comment she made. Every excuse. Every time she defended him. All of it started clicking together like the final pieces of a puzzle I didn't know I'd been building. I felt sick. She knew. She knew what he did to me. And she still went back to him. But why? Why him of all people? That question ate at me until the sun came up. And then I remembered something. About 2 months ago, I walked into Emily's place unannounced to drop off a box of art supplies she'd left in my trunk. She wasn't home. I figured I'd just leave them on the kitchen counter and bounce. But her laptop was open. Not snooping, just sitting there. Screen on. And I remember glancing at it and seeing something odd. An email thread. The name at the top? Chad B. Subject. Info for Q2, super helpful, T-checks. At the time I brushed it off. Maybe it was a freelance design thing. Or maybe she was just chatting with him, God knows why. But now? Now it felt like a smoking gun. So I did what I didn't want to do again. I pulled up her old iPad, praying it was still synced. It was. And what I found made my hands go numb. There were more emails. Not just chats. Not just flirty messages. Emails. Forwarded internal company memos. Budget breakdowns. Strategy drafts. Even my own work presentations. Stuff that hadn't even gone to the execs yet. She'd been sending him everything. All of it came from her personal email. Sent late at night. Labeled with vague subject lines like thoughts or sketches hidden in long threads so nothing would stand out. But the attachments? PowerPoints, PDFs, meeting notes I only ever shared with her in confidence. I could barely breathe. Chad wasn't just sleeping with my sister. He was using her. And she was handing over ammo like it was nothing. And suddenly, the weird comments in meetings made sense. How he always knew which pitch I was working on. Why he always seemed one step ahead on timelines. He'd been stealing my work. Undermining me in front of the team. Gaslighting me while he was gutting me professionally. And Emily had helped him do it. I felt something break inside me. I needed confirmation. I needed to hear it even if it ruined me. So I called her. She didn't pick up the first time. Or the second. But by the third, she answered. Her voice was tired. Quiet. Hey. I didn't waste time. I know you've been feeding him information. She was silent. Then she said, what are you talking about? I repeated it. Slower this time. You've been sending Chad my work. My files. My strategy decks. All of it. Still no answer. I asked again. How long? She finally whispered, I didn't think it was a big deal. My jaw clenched so tight I thought it would crack. Not a big deal? You gave my enemy, my backstabbing coworker, my intellectual property. While sleeping with him. You don't think that's a big deal? Her voice cracked. He told me you were tanking your own role. That you weren't pulling your weight anymore. That the execs were watching you. I didn't want you to get fired. My blood ran cold. He told you that? I asked. She hesitated. I thought I was helping. I didn't send anything private, just stuff you'd already shown me. I swear. You thought you were helping him. Not me. I didn't mean to, she snapped. It got complicated. We started talking. Then one thing led to another. I didn't plan any of this. I just sat there. Staring at the wall. You knew what he did to me. You knew. And you still went to him. Still trusted his side. There was a long pause. Then quietly, he said you weren't telling me everything. That you'd lied about what happened with Kayla. And there it was. The final twist of the knife. He'd flipped the script. He told her I was the liar. That he was the one betrayed. That I exaggerated the cheating to make him look bad. Said I'd been holding him back at work for years. Told her I was paranoid, that I was unstable. And she bought it. Because she wanted to. Because it was easier to believe the man she was sleeping with was misunderstood than admit she'd betrayed her own brother. I trusted you, I said. She was crying now. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't know who to believe. And he said you'd never forgive me if I told you. I laughed. It came out hollow. Well, he was right about that. Click. I hung up. And for the first time in this entire mess, I didn't feel sad. Or angry. I felt done. The next morning, I went straight to HR. I compiled every single file I found. Emails. Timestamps. Attachments. Proof of my original work. My drafts versus his final copies. I laid it all out. I told them everything. Not about the personal stuff, not yet. Just the fact that a colleague had stolen internal files through an outside source. That he'd used it to undermine me and present stolen work as his own. They were quiet for most of it. Took notes. Asked follow-ups. And said they'd be looking into it immediately. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know if they'll believe me or if it'll just blow up worse. But I do know this. I'm done being quiet. Done pretending it's not personal. Done protecting people who wouldn't spit on me if I were on fire. He used her. She let him. And now I have to clean up both of their messes. HR moved faster than I expected. 3 days after I submitted the evidence, Chad got called into a closed-door meeting. He didn't come out for hours. The next day, I was pulled in. They thanked me for bringing the information forward. Said they were launching an internal review and suspending Chad from client-facing projects while they investigated further. Translation: I'd finally put a crack in the Golden Boy's armor. That should have been satisfying. But it wasn't. Because the war was far from over and I had no idea how deep it actually went. See, after the call with Emily, I figured she'd go silent. Shame? Guilt? Or just pure avoidance? But instead, 2 days later, she showed up at my place again. Unannounced. She looked like she hadn't slept. Baggy hoodie. No makeup. Just stood there with that same look she had when we were kids and knew she'd broken something expensive. I need to tell you something, she said. I didn't invite her in. Just leaned on the doorframe. She looked around nervously. It wasn't just me, she said. Yeah, I replied. I know. It was you and Chad. No, she said, shaking her head. It wasn't just us. I squinted. What are you talking about? She swallowed. Hard. Do you remember Logan? I froze. Logan. Our cousin. Same age as me. We used to be close growing up until we weren't. He worked in finance now. Or at least that's what I thought. What about him? Emily looked like she wanted to disappear. He's the one who introduced me to Chad again. Last year. At a dinner. I didn't tell you because I didn't think it mattered. Logan introduced you to the guy who slept with my ex and backstabbed me at work? She nodded. I didn't know they knew each other. But Logan said he had a friend who could help me find more consistent freelance work. He said it would be a good connection. And that was Chad? Yes. The floor started shifting again. I found out later they'd been in contact for months. Chad told Logan everything about what happened with you and Kayla. Logan thought you were blowing things out of proportion. Said you'd always had this victim complex. He said you liked being the guy who got wronged so you could guilt people into pity. That hit like a punch to the throat. Emily kept going. Logan convinced me you were spiraling. That you were sabotaging your own career. That Chad was actually trying to help you. I leaned against the door harder. Are you telling me Logan orchestrated this? She didn't say anything. Emily. Did Logan tell you to spy on me? Tears welled up in her eyes. Not at first. I felt like I'd been thrown out of my own life. He said if I could tell him what you were working on, he might be able to help you. He made it sound like he was trying to protect you. But then Chad started asking for the same stuff. He said you were becoming a liability to the company and if he didn't step in, you were going to get yourself fired. And you believed them. She nodded, crying now. I thought I was helping. I thought I was saving you from yourself. But it got out of control. And then Chad started using it for his own gain. And then things got physical. And by then, I couldn't tell you without losing you. That was it. 3 people. 3 people I trusted. And all 3 had their own reason to tear me down. One for ego. One for power. One for validation. You used to be the one person I trusted, I said. Now I don't even know what your voice sounds like when it's telling the truth. I know, she whispered. Logan's not just family. He's in our department's investment group. He knows every number, every strategy. He doesn't just hate me, Emily. He's been betting against me. She blinked. What? He shorted our last campaign internally. Chad got the presentation early. Logan profited off of the failure. It was all coming together. They hadn't just hurt me personally. They built a network to dismantle me. Professionally, emotionally, financially. This wasn't a betrayal. This was a coordinated takedown. I didn't let her inside. Didn't even say goodbye. I just closed the door. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, Chad's been relocated to a different office. Code for pushed out without a lawsuit. Logan is under internal audit. HR won't say it outright, but the numbers aren't adding up, and I know exactly where to point. Emily? I haven't heard from her since. But my parents called. She told them I kicked her out over a misunderstanding. I didn't bother explaining, because I'm done explaining. I've taken the hits, the blindsides, the lies, and now I'm rebuilding. Quietly, carefully, ruthlessly, not with revenge, but with distance. I transferred to a different division. New team, new projects, no more shared space with ghosts in suits. And every time I think I've hit my lowest, I remember this: I survived. Even when I was surrounded by people who smiled to my face while selling me out. Even when the people I loved handed me over to someone they knew would gut me for scraps. I survived. And if you're reading this thinking you'd never be that blind, don't be so sure. The worst betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from the people who knew exactly where to aim.